It's time for the Green Bay Packers to cash in the chips. Overpay if you have to. Go all in for Micah Parsons.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet, and the show for fans who know what happened. They want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. Micah Parsons and the Dallas Cowboys are headed for divorce. At least that's the perspective of Adam Schefter. Now I understand. Okay, don't yell. I hear you. Don't yell. Adam Schefter also said the Packers and Aaron Rodgers were headed for divorce. But this is not something Adam Schefter just says. This is something he says based on the conversations that he has. And he is, I don't have to tell you, as connected as any reporter in the NFL. This has gotten personal. Micah Parsons has said he's done. And we've seen players say that before. But the Cowboys don't seem to have any interest in paying Micah Parsons. And whether he's actually going to be traded or not is almost irrelevant to this point. But this is the kind of player we have seen Brian Gutekunst target in the past. It is almost bar for bar the Khalil Mack situation. Except for the fact that the Raiders, we kind of knew they had no intention of paying Khalil Mack. That became a sweepstakes because teams knew Mack was gettable. It doesn't seem like the Cowboys have any intention of trading Micah Parsons. They just want to engage in this standoff. And I also understand any Packer fan who says, I watched the Cowboys documentary and I saw the reaction of Jerry Jones. I heard what was said, called it the worst loss in the team's history since he'd been there. It is hard to believe that Jerry Jones would want to trade Micah Parsons, A, and B, that he would want to trade Micah Parsons to the team that inflicted, in the very recent past, the worst loss in Jerry Jones' Cowboys history, which to Jerry Jones is Cowboys history. I understand all of that. But if he's on the fence, it would take a Godfather offer to push him to the side of making the trade, which means the Packers, maybe they have to pay a Packers tax. But if there's a big offer on the table, it is going to have to be big, guys. Like, you're not going to get, this is not fantasy football where you can just like fleece the dumbest guy in your league and, offer nothing and get back something. That seems to be the MO of a lot of fans. They want the superstar players, but they want to give up nothing to get them. This is like, if you want to do the Mac trade, it's going to have to be real stuff. If you want Micah Parsons, it's going to have to be real stuff. And for the Packers, they are in a position right now. I asked the question about Trey Hendrickson. Does he make you the favorites? Maybe. But if you had Micah Parsons, like, I do think there is a tier break between Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons, and everyone else. And maybe there is a Myles Garrett tier and then a Micah Parsons tier and then an everybody else tier. I don't think TJ Watt is in the Micah Parsons tier. Not anymore. It's probably Garrett, Parsons, and then a group of Hendrickson, Watt, Bosa. That's probably the tier. It looks like Abdul Carter might be joining that tier sooner than later. And so you're going to have to give up, man, a lot. Probably a player like Rashawn Gary, multiple high picks. I would think at least one, if not two first-round picks. You would have to do that. Now, if you're going to give up Rashawn Gary, understand you're paying him money. So if you're going to pay Micah Parsons $42 million or whatever it is, you're already paying Rashawn Gary. And so it's not like you're not adding $40 million to your books. Now there's dead money to worry about with Rashawn Gary and stuff like that, but you're adding Micah Parsons. You're adding, if not the second most impactful pass rusher in the NFL, one of the best defensive players, full freaking stop. And if you add Micah Parsons, I do think you become the favorite. Like, I would solidly say, I think the Packers become the favorite. They are one elite player away. Remember what we said this offseason. The difference between that Eagles team and that Packers team was one or two truly elite players. The Eagles had them, the Packers didn't. I think the Packers are a better coach team. I think the Packers had the better quarterback. The Packers had the better depth. The Eagles had those front line players. You add a player like Micah Parsons, and you are ready to go. And, for whatever reason, I don't know why this is, there's this like, well, he's small, doesn't play run defense. First of all, yes, he is small. He is a disruptive run defender. And also, who cares? Like, don't try and be a football hipster and say, oh, but the run defense matters. No, not when you are a player capable of 20 sacks in a season. That is what Micah Parsons is capable of. He is capable of being the best player on the field any time he steps on it. How many players for the Green Bay Packers can say that? Do they have one? Like, I think Jordan Love's really good. We've seen Jordan Love go head-to-head and outplay Mahomes twice. So we know he's able to get to that level. We know for half a season, he did it. He was the best quarterback in the NFL for 8 weeks. They don't have anyone even close defensively to being the best defensive player. Like, Xavier McKinney is an incredible football player. It was just, top 35 and in the top 100. He's an awesome all-pro player. But you put him on the field with Micah Parsons, and Micah Parsons is better. He just is. And you put Xavier McKinney on the field with the Lions, and Aiden Hutchinson can be a better defensive player. I mean, I think you could probably make the case that you put Xavier McKinney on the same field with Jalen Carter, and it's, you can, on a given day, X could be the better player. You look around at the contenders in the NFC. Can X be a more impactful defender than, say, Fred Warner? Maybe. I mean, Xavier McKinney was the standard bearer for this defense last year, was the guy that made everything work on a top 10 defense that isn't that talented. Fred Warner has been on some really good defenses, but we saw last year Fred Warner alone was not able to elevate the 49ers with some talent questions. The Packers with some talent questions last year had Xavier McKinney, and that was all that really mattered. I mean, that's a little overly reductive, but you understand what I'm saying. Worry about the first round picks later. Who cares? And the money is whatever. The Packers have the money. Like someone said to me, oh, they've got some young players to pay coming up. Who? You give up the opportunity to extend a Christian Watson, a Dontavian Wicks, an Elton Jenkins, a Jaden Reed in order to pay Micah Parsons. You do that 7 days a week. Twice on Sundays. Because guess what? On Sundays, that's when it matters the most. This team is in a position to go chase a Super Bowl now. So go chase a Super Bowl now. They are making some tweaks defensively. And I was trying to figure out why they were doing that. The front, they were playing some like legit 3-4 defense. This is supposed to be a 4-down front. This is supposed to be Jeff Hafley. This is supposed to be, 3 deep, 4 under. I think I know what's going on. I'll explain next. But before we get to that, I have to tell you about something coming to the Locked On Packers podcast. Every game this year, we will go live after the game on the Locked On Packers YouTube feed. And then for our normal, 28 minutes, half an hour, 32 minutes, whatever it is. And then me, Brandon Snide from the Locked On Brewers postcast, and former Packers coach Jeff Jagosinski are going to be doing a Locked On Packers squad show, a post-game show for an hour on YouTube. So is a half an hour after the game not enough for you? Cool. We got a former Packers coach who's great. We've already been just like going crazy talking about how we want to make the show and what we want to do. And we've been given a lot of autonomy to make it what we want to make it. And we want to make it the best damn Packers post-game show that exists. So Locked On Packers will happen right after the game. Watch that one on YouTube. And then you can stay on the YouTube page. It'll open right up for you the next hour. So we'll have an hour and a half after every game of post-game coverage. Me, Jags, Brandon, we're going to have a blast. Come hang out with us all year long. This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. It's the best time of year. NFL kickoff is almost here, and that means fantasy football season is back in full swing. And this year, Yahoo Fantasy is turning things up with a football experience like never before. Me and Locked On Packers are playing Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. Look, Yahoo is the only place you should be playing fantasy football, period. And to celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout August. To kick it off, they dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues. This is a killer new way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's one team left standing. With the season around the corner, now's the time to get your league together and give this new mode a try. If you're more into the classics, you can still play in head-to-head private leagues or join a public league. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. We saw some curious things over the last couple weeks with this defense. One of them is seeing true stand-up outside linebacker type fronts, true odd fronts. And then some where they're playing four-man fronts, but still playing outside players, edge players from a stand-up position. And I thought, no, well, maybe those guys were just more comfortable that way. Even though, Rashawn Gary used to be defensive end, Lucas Van Ness used to be a hand-in-the-dirt player, played defensive tackle and defensive end, you'd think being that four-down player would be where he'd actually be more comfortable. But the more I thought about it, and the more I saw Jeff Hafley playing disguise coverages in the preseason, I mean, what kind of psychopath does that? Well, it's the kind of coach who cares deeply about the adaptability and the ability to try and trick offenses by using your personnel. One of the reasons why teams have moved away from those 3 deep, 4 under, 4-man front, old school Legion of Boom style of defenses is it has become too easy for offenses to identify who is coming and from where. Because those teams were pretty much 4-man rush teams all the time. And if you don't have a team capable of being a 4-man rush team and just winning when everyone knows that's all you're doing, it becomes really hard to generate pressure. Okay. So now you put 3 guys, 3 true defensive linemen on the field and 2 edge players. Guess what you can do from that odd front? You can drop one of those guys. You can create overload pressure looks. It's built into the scheme that you're probably only going to rush 4, but if you're the offense, you don't know which 4 are coming. So that's how you get Lucas Van Ness dropping into coverage in a preseason game, because they're working on that stuff. It takes timing, and Hafley wants to see, okay, how does this look? How do teams react? How are they making their protection calls at the line? There's an added benefit here. You can play Javon Bullard as a safety in these looks. And this is really where I think this is going. I think the Packers know Javon Bullard is not the best nickel corner, cover corner on this team. But they love him as a safety. The problem is Evan Williams and Xavier McKinney are really good players. We just talked about how great Xavier McKinney is. And right now, Javon Bullard is playing the Xavier McKinney role because Xavier McKinney's hurt. So what you can do from these odd fronts, it's sort of like what Joe Barry wanted to do with his penny fronts, where you put 5 guys up from that 3-4. It's that you take that odd front alignment. So you have your 3 true defensive linemen and 2 edge players. It looks like that 3-4 front. But then you just have 1 linebacker behind it and a safety, a defensive back rolled up in the box. And what you're trying to do is create a 5-man surface so that you get one-on-ones everywhere and that linebacker can flow. It was what gave Devondre Campbell, he was just locked in. Made every read, made every right play. He was awesome in 2021, and the Packers played a decent amount of penny front doing that. Now, the run defense suffered because it requires that linebacker to be right way more often than not, and it requires that defensive back to roll up into the box and be a force run defender to truly fit the run from in the box. And that means you're going to have to take on blocks. You're going to have to fight off offensive linemen or run around them. It creates some issues. Okay. What if you played what would essentially just be a 3-4 nickel look with Javon Bullard? That becomes your base. So we talked about this the other day. Like, how do you get everybody? How do you get your best 11 on the field? Well, you get Kenny Clark out there. You get Devontae Wyatt out there. Maybe Carl Brooks plays a little 5 technique for you. Lucas Van Ness, Rashawn Gary, Edgerrin Cooper, Quay Walker. You only really need 2 linebackers. Like, Javon Bullard is orders of magnitude better than Isaiah McDuffie or Isaiah Simmons. Any of the Isaiahs, than Tyron Hopper. He's just better. And so you're not worried about Javon Bullard in those circumstances covering receivers because he's not asked to. He gets to play essentially safety. He's an overhang defender. And now you've created so many options with the way you can deploy your personnel. You can have Javon Bullard in the box and he can bail out and play deep half or deep middle. And you can spin down Xavier McKinney or Evan Williams. And now all of that variability that you have with your rush is 5 coming or a 4? Where is Javon Bullard going to be? Where is Xavier McKinney going to be? Where is Evan Williams going to be? It gives you so much flexibility, and then you don't have to play a linebacker who's just not as good as the DB you're taking off the field. It's in a way, it's big nickel. And you could play that first down for sure. Second in mediums, second in shorts. I never want to see the Packers play 3 linebackers if their 3 safeties are healthy. There's just no reason to do it. And then if it's 3rd and 8 and you want to play a little bit of man coverage, or it's the red zone and you want to take Bullard off the field because you want Nate Hobbs on Justin Jefferson or on Amon-Ra St. Brown, I understand that. What I didn't understand was last year when they were having Javon Bullard like rotate in, and then it was like, okay, well, he was only playing in these, like only playing in base. It was a very weird situation last year with some of the rotations with Bullard. And I think they want to find ways to get him on the field. This would be a way, is to live more in those odd fronts with three safeties, with one of those safeties being Javon Bullard. In Pro Football Focus, you look in the charting and you say, well, he played a lot of safety last year. Nah, not really. He was an overhang defender. But Pro Football Focus charts that if he's a nickel, like is he playing corner with the disguise? That can get murky. So there's a lot of things that go into this. But I think this just gives the Packers so much more flexibility, and it all fits. I'm not making a suggestion. I think this is what they're doing. Because it all fits with their philosophy, with their style, with what Jeff Hafley wants to be. They want to be the disguise, the preeminent disguise team in the NFL. Evan Williams came on our show and said that. So playing these three guys together, David McKinney can play in the slot. You split out a tight end, you want to play some man coverage, you can still do that. Put Xavier McKinney over there. You can still put Javon Bullard over there. Now, teams are mostly going to live in 11 personnel, but a team like the Lions, they want to put their big guys out there. A team like the Bears, maybe they want to put their big guys out there. Maybe they want to put Cole Kmet and Colston Loveland on the field together. Well, you're going to need some guys who can cover. Well, that's not going to be McDuffie or Simmons. If it's covering tight ends, I feel much better about that being Xavier McKinney, Evan Williams, and or Javon Bullard. That's the group you want out there. Maybe the Vikings lean into a little bit more heavy personnel this year. We know the Eagles do that. They play with big bodies out there all the time. I'm not worried at all about the Eagles' third receiver. I know they just traded for John Mechie, but like they have A.J. Brown, they have Devontae Smith. Those are the guys you're worried about. Now, they could move those guys into the slot, but that's why you have Nate Hobbs. You want to put A.J. Brown in the slot? Here's Nate Hobbs. Because I wouldn't want Javon Bullard in the slot in a situation like that, but I'd want him on the field. And remember when Joe Barry, at the end of that run there, when that defense was playing well in 2022 or playing better in the second half of 2022, they were creating 5-man surfaces. Now they were doing that by walking Quay Walker up. But the Packers have enough pass rush with these guys. Now, maybe Baron Sorrell plays some 5 technique. Maybe Lucas Van Ness plays some 5 technique, which we've seen him do. And you put Brenton Cox on the outside. Rashawn Gary plays some 5 technique. Like you have these big guys that can play that style. You can create your one-on-one matchups. You can rush the passer that way effectively, and then you're mitigating some of the coverage questions. I think this is a reflection of Jeff Hafley's willingness to evolve, to change, and it's what makes him such an appealing future head coaching candidate. It's what makes him such a great pair with Matt LaFleur. I can't wait to see this defense. I can't wait to see it. I also can't wait to see the Packers trade a day 3 pick for Anthony Richardson next spring. We'll talk about that next on Locked On Packers. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even a bigger group to come with you. Gametime makes it possible. Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch. They've got incredible last minute deals, clear seat views, and the lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. Gametime is an official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB, making it easy to browse the app for exciting upcoming Major League Baseball games. You want to go see the Brewers? Guess what? Gametime can get you there. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, the lowest price guaranteed. Thanks for making Locked On Packers your first listen. NFL fantasy draft season is here. For your second listen, go check out Locked On Fantasy Football. Vinny Iyer, Michelle Majuk, every day they prep you for your fantasy draft. You become the most informed manager so you can take home your league's trophy this season or avoid what I assume is a terrible punishment. Find Locked On Fantasy Football on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Last August, Brian Gutekunst traded for an extremely talented, extremely physically gifted, inconsistent quarterback who really did not look like an NFL player in the opportunities he got in the AFC South, in what I think is a bad situation. And then that player, on no time at all, had an offense tailor-made for him, and the Packers went out and won 2 games, really 3 games, all in the AFC South, by the way, with that quarterback at the helm, and proved just how valuable a backup quarterback can be when you're a team fighting to get into the playoffs. They can do it again because Daniel Jones is going to start for the Indianapolis Colts. And Shane Steichen said, this is for 2025. This is not for now. This is not week 1, and we'll see. This is 2025. They don't want him looking over his shoulder. Now, Daniel Jones' history says he will get hurt and Anthony Richardson will play again, but you benched Anthony Richardson last year. This year, you gave him the chance to compete for his starting job in year 3, and he lost that competition. Lost in heavy scare quotes. Do I think Daniel Jones understands pre-snap and post-snap how to operate this offense better? I'm sure he does. He's played like twice as many or 3 times as many games as Anthony Richardson in his NFL career. It's not surprising. This from the start was mishandled. And if you're the Colts, you have to see from a team building standpoint what you have in Anthony Richardson, a player who, is still one of the youngest starting quarterbacks in the league if he were going to be the starter. From a team building standpoint, this makes no sense, but a team that needs to win or you're going to get fired, that's how you make a decision like Daniel Jones. It's how you get talked into drafting Will Levis, maybe. So, if this is it, you move on. But then Anthony Richardson becomes Trey Lance. He becomes Joe Milton in terms of the value of him. Yes, top 5 pick. Trey Lance was a top 3 pick that ended up getting traded for a day 3 pick. Like, no one is giving up a 3rd round pick to trade for Anthony Richardson next spring. But it will be in a somewhat similar situation where you're talking about a guy going into the last year of his contract, first round, an expensive contract, but you get him. And he's on your team. Like if the Packers had traded a 7th round pick for just last year of Malik Willis, that would have been well worth the pick. Like what would they have given up to take 3 wins last year? What draft capital would they have given up to say, we'll take 3 wins without Jordan Love? A 2nd round pick? Like that might be what it was worth. Certainly like a 3rd or a 4th, definitely a 5th would have been worth winning 2.5 games for the Packers last year. If it's a 5th round pick, like Matt LaFleur can fix him. We've seen the offense be wildly reconfigured to accommodate a backup quarterback who can't play like the starter. Anthony Richardson cannot play like Jordan Love, but you know what he can do? He can huck that ball deep, baby. So all of those deep shots in your offense, play action, Anthony Richardson can do that. All of the stuff you built for Malik Willis, the single wing, crazy stuff that they were doing last year, the spinner motion, all that stuff. Guess who can do that? Anthony Richardson. He is a monster with the ball in his hand. An incredible runner. And yeah, he's going to get hurt or he's going to be inconsistent. But guess what? He's a backup. It's exactly the kind of play. You don't need him to develop into an NFL quarterback, a starting quarterback. You need him to be a high variance backup. I have become evangelized on the backup quarterback thing. But what I have become evangelized to is a backup quarterback who is Graham Harrell or Joe Callahan, even in like a better quality version of those players, a Matt Flynn. If you're the Packers, I don't want that. If you're any team, frankly, if I was running a team, I would not want that. I would want Joe Milton. Because what could happen is Joe Milton could come in and play the game of his life and play well enough to win. Like the best version of Joe Milton we saw. And they won a game that Patriots fans are furious that they won because it cost them a chance to draft Abdul Carter. So that's Malik Willis. If he had to start 17 games for the Packers, maybe they would win 6 or 7. But if he starts 3 games for the Packers, maybe they win 2. In the case of last year, they went 3-1 in games where he played significant time. And they rightfully could have, like Malik Willis, helped them lead a comeback in the fourth quarter twice last year. They were losing to the Bears and then winning. So it was an evolution for me. But I'm here now, and I want like trade for Trey Lance, trade for Joe Milton. Give that guy a chance. Look at Trey Lance in the preseason. Looks like a different guy. Now, if he had to play 17 games for the Chargers, they would win 4 games, 5 games, 6 games. But if he has to play 3 games for the Chargers, could he win 2? Could he even win 1? Maybe. That would be pretty useful. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities at all. All right, back tomorrow as we get you ready for joint practices, for Packers Seahawks, and the preseason finale. We have the squad show coming up after. I mentioned the squad show at the top of the show before we went into the B block. I can't wait for it. It's going to be an absolute blast. So come hang out with us. On YouTube, it will go right. You watch the Locked On Packers live stream. It will go right into the squad show. Me, Brandon Snide, Jeff Jagosinski. It's going to be a blast. Come hang out with us. Follow me on the social medias. I'll tweet out links. Follow the podcast on the social medias. They will put out the stuff. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Subscribe on YouTube so you can stay Locked On Packers.